Welcome back to our podcast. Tap into Tong Ren, Stories of Healing and Change. This is Joseph Lucier, licensed Asian bodyworker and holistic practitioner and herbalist, 25-year TAM healing system practitioner, focusing on Tong Ren distance healing that we're talking about today, as well as a Tuina Asian bodywork therapist, and a 9-time author on many of these subjects we are discussing. Each episode is about this amazing healing method that is now used quite a bit all over the world. In our previous episodes, we discussed the history of the TAM healing system, the amazing story of the 6-year-old girl in hospice with leukemia who left the hospital cancer-free, and the benefits of consistency for frequency of treatments for focus to help your patients or yourselves with this methodology and techniques to make it work better for you. Before we begin, we need to ask ourselves, since we talk about cancer a lot with all these different patients and stories, and since Tong Ren itself, or the TAM healing system, is quite adept at focusing on cancer itself, we need to ask ourselves, what is cancer? Is cancer actually a disease? And what is the cause of cancer? We also want to understand, in addition to Tong Ren, sometimes we talk about adjunct therapies that support the same deep root cause of illness. So we want to answer some of these questions of exactly what cancer is, because once we know what it is, we know the best way to focus on it and treat it as well as we can. This episode is episode number 4, The Amazing Story of Cancer, and Ruth, who beat cancer herself. So, first thing, what is cancer? The first thing to understand is to understand that cancer is not a disease. All illness is caused by deficiency and toxicity, resulting in inflammation. In the case of cancer, it is one step deeper, the deficiency of oxygen, but it is not a disease because it is a reaction, a survival tool to help us to fight off the conditions created by an oxygen deficiency. So think of it in simple terms. A lack of oxygen is the cause of cancer. That's important because we need oxygen to survive. We can go many days without food or even water, but only moments without oxygen. And for the body itself, internally, that is a critical gauge for our survival. If oxygen levels go down to a certain amount, technically 40% or below, the alarm bells go off, and then all of the mechanisms for an alternative way to survive without oxygen is initiated by the doctor, by the body itself. So as we always say, don't fear cancer, understand it. So as we say, it is a survival tool to keep us alive during a healing crisis. It may be a surprising thing to say, but tumors are actually temporary organs, just like any other organ, but they have a different job. They are to fight off or to basically compensate for this oxygen deficiency. And in a nutshell, we have normal cellular metabolism, that we have availability of oxygen to produce high amounts of energy, technically known as ATP, bundles of little batteries of energy. But in the case of an oxygen deficiency, we need to create energy without oxygen or with a lower amount of oxygen just to get us through the healing crisis. It's basically a body plan B. So that's what we want to focus on. So cancer is that process, alternative process of creating energy in the body. So, why do we know this is true? About 100 years ago, it was proven to be true by Nobel Prize-winning science, in particular Otto Warburg, and many other scientists have all agreed. He received this prize multiple times to actually have identified the cause of cancer. An oxygen deficiency triggers genes, oncogenes, or cancer-causing genes, to produce cancer cells so that we can still have enough energy not to die. That's the bottom line. So about 100 years ago, Otto Warburg discovered this, and we've known it for about 100 years. Cancer is not a deficiency of chemotherapy, radiation, or surgery. It is a deficiency of oxygen, and oxygen levels in the body can be reversed. One of the main causes of oxygen deficiency is acidity, which can be caused by toxicity, poor food, acid thoughts. The more acidic we are, the less oxygen we have. That's the balance to understand a basic understanding of our healing. So if you look at it this way, acidity causes inflammation and causes deficiency, and that relationship is what manages our homeostasis in our bodies. Also, about 100 years ago, before the onslaught of big pharma, doctors at that time or scientists at that time said, we don't have oxygen. How do we get oxygen back into the body? So the ozone machine was invented in the 1800s by Nikola Tesla. So he was the founder of that, and he used that to bring oxygen levels back into the body. He also created something called ozonated magnesium oxide around 1895, and this is an oxygen therapy I use with my patients, as well as cleansing the body, which it does, cleans the entire digestive tract. It floods the body with oxygen. So a good example of these things, a specific person comes to mind. Her name is Ruth. She was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer. So immediately we think, what is the cause? It is oxygen deficiency. Oxygen deficiency can be caused by toxicity or deficiency or injury, or in the case of Tong Ren, a bioelectrical blockage. When there is a bioelectrical blockage, the body is also not working properly. There could be acid. If you think of Tong Ren in this way, similar to your car, if your car battery has acid on it, the signal going from the battery to the starter is broken. Tong Ren works on the cables called nerves going to organs and to glands in our body. In the case of breast cancer, that very specific blockage would be on T4, as we call it, thoracic 4. As we mentioned before, the spine has 4 main parts: the cervical of the neck, the thoracic of the upper back, the lumbar of the lower back, and the sacrum. Each one of those vertebrae has a nerve coming out of it going to a very specific place. It makes it very easy to diagnose. So from a Tong Ren perspective, stage 4 breast cancer could be related to an oxygen deficiency which has been created because there is a blockage in the bioelectricity and the communication of what we talk about as the brain-wound connection. So when the resistance occurs, oxygen deficiency can result in the organ triggering the cascade of events for oncogenes to produce cancer cells. This is helping us to get through that healing crisis. In addition to that, if the situation continues, as with all cancers, something called angiogenesis or blood vessel generation occurs. Why is that? Because the oxygen deficiency has not been resolved. Therefore, a larger temporary organ is needed to create more energy in order for us to survive the healing crisis. So, if the healing crisis does not resolve, the tumor will get larger and larger and larger. The goal is to bring back the oxygen levels in the body, reduce acidity, reduce deficiency, because nutrients deficiencies are also able to cause deficiency. So we also focus on the bioelectricity of the body in terms of nutrition. We want to have plenty of electrolytes to create proper charge for the proper functioning of our bodies. So those electrolytes are basically minerals. So if we are deficient in those, again, we will have a predominance of acidic conditions as opposed to alkaline minerals. These basic minerals are sodium, magnesium, potassium, and calcium. And one of the best sources of those, of course, is sea vegetables. So if we have a deficiency in these, again, that scale, that seesaw of formula of acidity, alkalinity, and inflammation, and an oxygen deficiency is disrupted. So our goal is to bring that back online. So it's a whole body approach. But from a Tong Ren perspective, if we open up a blockage that has been created by the internal environment or the inner terrain, creating a blockage of communication links of bioelectricity, basically nerve impulses, from the brain to the target organ, in this case, the breast area, we will have a deficiency of oxygen and cancer will come about. So that's our main focus. So in the case of Ruth, she was successful. She reversed her cancer. And the reason why is she focused on the oxygen deficiency from different angles. Number 1 was Tong Ren. Number 2 was detoxification through our clay cleanse program. Number 3 was oxygenation through a program based upon the developments and the technologies of Nikola Tesla in the 1890s, the ozonated magnesium oxide. And of course, she went plant-based, and we taught her very specifically how to focus on alkaline foods compared to acidic foods, which is primarily plant-based, high green, lots of sprouts, sea vegetables, and fermented foods. Those are the basic healing foods that are actually taught all over the world for cancer because they target bringing the body back to an alkaline state, which is reducing the acidic state, which is increasing the oxygenated state of the entire body. So that is the basic formula that works. There are many ways to do this with herbs, and especially Tong Ren, because there are many ways that cause these types of situations of a blockage. So for myself, I was involved in nutrition originally, but then I noticed sometimes I needed one more thing to get some people over the finish line of success. There was still a blockage. Nutrition works most of the time, works really well. It goes to the underlying cause of the disease or the condition, or cancer, as we say, is not a disease, but it is a state of the body in fight or flight, basically trying to keep the body from being overwhelmed from an oxygen deficiency. So what we wanted to do is, with Tong Ren, open a blockage, release the bioelectrical communication from the brain to the target, in this case, the breast cancer, get that communication going, as well as reduce the underlying cause, as Ruth did. An interesting story, part of her story, part 2, later, after success, going back to work, living a full life, being totally successful, embracing plant-based nutrition for her long-term success. She did a great job. She worked really hard at this and she did tremendous. So hats off to her for doing all this great work. She was so motivated, very inspiring. Later, she actually had a situation where a lump had returned over a year later. So that could be caused by many different things, or the environment, electromagnetic frequencies, or different things. But the bottom line is, this would not cause fear because she had already figured out how to overcome this condition. One of the things we discuss, and I discuss with all my patients, is long-term maintenance. One of those long-term maintenance recommendations is SCAC tea. Again, over 100 years ago, with scientific testing, just like the Otto Warburg research and Nobel Prize-winning science. So, within a very short amount of time, she returned to the SCAC protocol, and as she said, the lump was gone within 3 days. And that could be for many reasons. If you think of it, she had been working on creating an inner terrain and her inner body to be alkaline. So she was already primed to fight off this condition. So she needed a little boost. The extra boost was the SEACT, which focuses very deeply on microtubules specifically, but detoxing the liver, removing excess toxins. She may have had some residual situations, and this put her over the winning line once again. So there is a great case of long-term investment into things like SEACT or black salve and plant-based nutrition, but as well as making sure sometimes the deciding factor is actually Tong Ren therapy, because you may change all those conditions and there is still may be a minor blockage somewhere as a result of all the other causes. So that is a lesson on understanding the big picture. Cancer is not a disease, it is an oxygen deficiency. Focus on oxygen to reverse cancer. Focus on deficiencies and toxicities, and that will bring back the body into homeostasis. It will reduce inflammation, and it will create the environment which is so strong, just as Ruth was within 3 days, to fight off a new situation of cancer. That is the goal of our system at Anusara Wellness, to give you the entire picture, and especially with Tong Ren therapy, to bring the body back into homeostasis and allow the proper communication from the brain-wound connection to allow the body to heal. As we always say, in order to best understand the benefits of Tong Ren, why not experience it? Go to TongRenStation.com, find a place anywhere in the world to get a mini session, or join me on Thursdays at 6 p.m. Eastern Time on my website, AnusaraWellness.com, to experience it for yourself. And this is free because we want everybody to experience it and everybody to actually understand what it is, why it works, and be empowered to know that you yourself can take control and take charge of your own life. If people tell you you have so much time to live or there is no hope, there are many, many resources. As we mentioned, 20,000 years of history from all over the world have had successful results. Tong Ren therapy and distance healing itself has been around also for hundreds and thousands of years as well. It uses an advanced technique of transmission and to open a blockage, but it is equally as successful as using the same technique with acupuncture, Asian bodywork, and as well as Tong Ren, our discussion for today. So thank you very much for joining our episode, and we look forward to seeing you again in the future. Take care and have a great day. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Tap into Tong Ren, Stories of Healing and Change podcast. I'd love to know, what did you think? Did you have any aha moments? What got you fired up? Did this episode make you more curious about this healing world, or make you think differently about specific topics and hopefully expand your awareness? Let us know your feedback, and always feel free to contribute and share your own ideas and recommendations. Let us know what is your possible personal experience in this area. Think about what you heard that got you most excited. Figure out how you can ignite that fire by taking a first step or going deeper into your own practice. This is your nudge for you to question what you have heard from us, for you to question what you've heard from others, and above all, get to the truth that you need in order to be empowered and excited about your practice and your own health. Question things and get out of your comfort zone and start making things happen. If you have questions, reach out to the community. Also, we have lots of resources like online courses and live workshops to support you. Once again, thank you for thinking about us and listening to our Tong Ren Community podcast. Stay tuned for our next episode of Tap into Tong Ren, Stories of Healing and Change. We hope to continue to empower inspire, and uplift people on their journey to optimum health. Join us each time and let's take charge of our health and share this important information with the world.